Heartbreaking news. Triple H confirms 4 WWE superstars passed away. Welcome back, WWE Insider. Picture this, the sterile hum of a conference room deep in WWE headquarters, where Triple H stands alone under fluorescent lights that cast long shadows on his face, his voice cracking like thunder over a fragile horizon as he utters words no one ever wants to hear. 4 superstars, 4 beating hearts of the industry, gone forever, leaving behind a void that echoes with the raw ache of lives cut short, families shattered, and a brotherhood forever scarred. Please like, share, and subscribe for more WWE content. It started with a whisper in the early hours of dawn, the kind that seeps into your bones before the sun even rises, news of the first loss hitting like a betrayal from fate itself. Richard, Black Bart, Harris, the grizzled veteran whose mentorship shaped titans like JBL, slipping away in hospice after chemotherapy surrendered to the relentless siege of cancer, his final breaths a quiet surrender in a Texas hospital room that smelled of antiseptic and unspoken regrets. Backstage, the tension coiled like a serpent in the underbelly of the arena. Wrestlers who'd once shared ropes and roars with Harris paused mid-conversation, their faces crumpling as the call came through, fists clenching against the betrayal of a body that had endured decades of bumps but couldn't outrun this invisible foe, eyes darting away to hide the sting of tears that threatened to betray their tough exteriors. Grief wrapped around the locker room like a fog, thick and suffocating, as JBL slumped against a locker, his broad shoulders heaving with sobs that echoed the mentor's last lessons of grit and glory now tainted by the health crisis that had ravaged Harris from the inside, a man who'd trained champions but couldn't train his own cells to fight back one more round. Then came the second blow, a scandal that no one saw brewing in the shadows of faded glory. Hulk Hogan, the immortal Hulkster, Terry Bollea himself, felled not by a leg drop but by a heart betrayal in May, his larger-than-life frame crumbling under cardiac arrest after months of whispered health crises, surgeries, pains dismissed as just getting old, now exposed as the cruel prelude to a legacy silenced too soon. Imagine the family breakdowns in that moment. Hogan's daughter Brooke, her voice fracturing over a frantic phone call from the ambulance, begging for one more Hulk up as monitors flatlined, the grief twisting into a scandal of sorts when old rivalries resurfaced in eulogies, accusations flying like cheap shots about egos and excesses that might have hastened the end, leaving a dynasty fractured and fans worldwide clutching faded bandanas in disbelief. The arena felt hollow that night, backstage tension spiking as superstars gathered in hushed clusters, their banter dying into silence. One veteran, eyes red-rimmed, slammed a fist into a gear bag, the thud reverberating like the final gong, his outburst a raw confession of the death's ripple, how Hogan's passing unearthed buried feuds, turning brothers into ghosts of what they once were. Sabu, the extreme icon whose body was a roadmap of scars from tables broken and barbed wire drawn, became the third shadow in this heartbreaking quartet. His death in the spring, shrouded in the grief of a career that danced with danger, a health crisis of failing organs from years of hardcore hell finally cashing in, leaving ECW loyalists and WWE Revival alums staring at empty chairs in the production truck, whispering about the man who'd bleed for the art but couldn't bleed out the toll. Backstage, the betrayal cut deepest here, not from a turncoat heel, but from the ring itself, that unforgiving canvas that Sabu adored like a lover, now the unwitting accomplice in his downfall. Producers exchanged glances heavy with unspoken scandal, debating hushed tones about unreported injuries, the tension building as tributes poured in, each one a dagger to the heart of those who'd shared death matches turned too real. Family breakdowns echoed in the wake of Sabu's exit. His nephew Rob Van Dam, the whole effin' show, collapsing into a chair in the family home, grief-stricken calls to distant relatives fracturing bonds strained by years of road-worn absences, the scandal of a wrestler's nomadic life laid bare in autopsy reports that hinted at neglected checkups, turning private pain into public lament. The fourth loss landed like a superkick to the soul. Bad News Brown, Alan Coage, the judo bronze medalist turned WWE battler, his passing in March a quiet thunder in Calgary's cold air, death claiming him at 63 after a lifetime of battles both in and out of the squared circle, his health crises a hidden war against the wear of Olympic glory faded into grapples and battle royals won at WrestleMania's edge. Tension backstage reached a fever pitch as news broke during a taping. Crew members froze mid-setup, superstars mid-warm-up dropping to benches, their breaths ragged with the betrayal of time. Coage, who'd stood tall against giants, now felled by the mundane cruelty of age and ailment, his legacy a scandal of sorts in how wrestling's grind masked the human fragility beneath the bravado. Grief swelled in waves during the impromptu vigil, wrestlers encircling a photo of Brown hoisting that WrestleMania trophy, voices cracking in shared stories of his unyielding spirit, the air thick with the scent of sweat-soaked tape and fresh tears, family members arriving red-eyed, breakdowns unfolding in embraces that spoke of roads not taken, homes left empty for the roar of crowds. Triple H's confirmation came in that sterile room, his words measured but laced with the raw edge of a man who's buried too many friends, the camera catching the quiver in his jaw as he named them: Harris, Hogan, Sabu, Brown, each syllable a hammer blow, the health crises they'd battled in silence now immortalized in headlines that screamed scandal over the industry's silence on wellness. The emotional peak crashed like a hell in a cell collapse. A leaked audio from the presser, Triple H's voice breaking mid-sentence, admitting the backstage whispers of ignored warnings, betrayals not of loyalty but of care, turning the room into a confessional where producers and performers alike confronted the deaths as mirrors to their own ticking clocks. Family rifts tore open wider in the aftermath, Hogan's kin sparring publicly over estate whispers, Sabu's relatives airing grievances on social media about unfulfilled promises, the grief morphing into scandals that fueled tabloid fires, while back in the arenas, tension simmered in every promo, every suplex a defiant scream against the Reaper's grip. One young NXT hopeful, mentored loosely by Black Bart's tales, broke down in the trainer's office, his sobs a torrent of fear, how these deaths unearthed his own health scares, minor twinges now omens, the betrayal of a dream that devours its dreamers, backstage elders pulling him aside in tense huddles, voices low with the weight of survivor's guilt. The scandal deepened with anonymous leaks, reports of overlooked medicals during Hogan's final run, Sabu's pleas for time off dismissed as just drama, the industry's underbelly exposed in grief-fueled reckonings, tension fracturing alliances as superstars demanded changes, their human faces, sweaty, vulnerable, peering out from behind the masks. In quiet moments post-announcement, grief lingered like smoke after a fire, a veteran sat alone in the empty ring, tracing the mat's tears with calloused fingers, mourning not just the four, but the family breakdowns they'd leave behind, children without grandfathers' stories, wives widowed by spotlights that burned too bright. As the dust settles on this heartbreaking chapter, we confront the fragility woven into WWE's unbreakable spirit, betrayals by our own bodies, grief that binds us tighter than any tag team, health crises that humble gods, scandals born of silence, deaths that steal our thunder, family fractures mended in memory, and backstage tensions that forge deeper resolve. Yet in this storm, remember the loyalty that outlasts the spotlight, the love that echoes in every comeback, and the legacy that rises unyielding from the grave. 4 stars dimmed, but their fire illuminates the path forward. Stay with us here at WWE Insider, hit that notification bell, and let's honor them by never looking away from the heart behind the hustle.